put people in the right position.
So I'm watching this Cowboys documentary, and it's great. I mean, you could nitpick it and whatever, but it's a lot of fun, right? It's a cool history to dive back there.
Well,
The one
listen,
direct,
let me just stop you there.
yeah,
I don't know how much fun it was. I went out to LA. I interviewed for like an hour and a half, and then the director calls me and says, "Hey, Steve, we're not going to use your stuff."
that's what I'm about to
What?
say. The glaring omission from dude, they totally skip over. That was a huge part of that whole team and the development of that dynasty was when you get taken in the supplemental draft after Troy gets taken first. So this is great. Screw them. I get first. I get the first shot at this. All right, we're taking this
Well,
off the cutting room floor. What was
listen,
that like for you to be thrust into that situation by a guy who I would imagine is a great mentor of yours, Jimmy Johnson?
yeah, I mean, he picked me up from the airport. He's like, "Hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to trade you if the right opportunity comes along." But he really did like having two guys. Obviously he had a high level of trust with me. He knew Troy. He recruited Troy back when Troy was coming out of high school, so he knew Troy and his reputation and what kind of person Troy was. So he felt like he was going to be able to trust Troy, but he really liked the idea of having two guys. Although we were young, two quarterbacks going in and competing. He loved, yeah, like any coach, you love competition. And I mean, I knew I wasn't necessarily in it for the long haul, but I was going to go in and learn and get, when I had my opportunity, I was going to try to take advantage of it, and that's what happened. I got to start 5 games. We won the one game that we
The
we won
Redskins
all
game.
season.
Yeah.
But because I was able to do that, I was able to play 11 years. I mean, if I don't get that opportunity as a rookie, who knows what happens? I certainly, the Saints don't trade for me, when they needed a starting quarterback. And, so that opportunity gave me an opportunity to have chances to make a very successful career. Could have been more successful had I stuck as a starter, but irregardless, started 40 games and, won more than I lost. And, it was good. So and the other thing was, it was such a young team, because he was turning over the roster. Daryl Johnson was a rookie, Mark Stepnowski, obviously Michael Irvin just going into his second year. Emmett came the next year. Obviously Troy for certain, um, a big part of that. And, so it was kind of nice to be around a bunch of young guys trying to figure out the NFL.
So it is. I just want to go back a little bit because it's super interesting. I would imagine Jimmy Johnson came into your living room, right, and recruited you in Minnesota, and now he's
He didn't
picked
want to, but he did. Yeah.
you. So then he's picked you up from the airport, and I was recruited to play in college. Like I know what those relationships are like. It's kind of like a father-son deal in a way. It can be. So he
Yeah.
picks you up at the airport when you're going to play for the Cowboys, and he explains to you, like, look, this is going to be an opportunity for you to get a ton of great tape out there and really be a part of things. But when the opportunity comes along, like he was that transparent with you, I'm going to put
He
you in a good
was.
spot.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it was like, they always throw in, "Hey, you go into camp and you compete." I mean, you just don't know how guys are going to react. Obviously, Troy was an incredible talent, but he had, when you win that many games, coach quarterback type relationship, similar to what, ultimately what Brady and Belichick had, right? There's just a trust level that is hard to replace until you do it with the next guy. So, that was something that him and I had because we had been through the battles. He saw how I prepared, he saw how I handled adversity, and was obviously confident in my ability.
It's funny. You look back at that situation, it's like, okay, that team didn't win, but it seems like everybody in life really won. Like Troy obviously got that competitive juice or whatever. I'm sure you helped him along the way. Jimmy got a lot out of you and probably more out of Troy. And then you end up in New Orleans with a fresh opportunity. And you really, like you said, you get a chance to play 10 years in the NFL or 12 years, whatever it was.
Yeah. I mean, the funny side story to that is, so in 1990, I get traded to the Saints at the trade deadline. I start 2 weeks later, and it was just a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. Well, Troy gets hurt late in the season, and they played the backup, and
Steve
and
Berline, right?
no, it wasn't Berline yet.
Babe
It
Loffenberg?
might have been Babe,
Yeah, it was.
and Babe struggled a little bit, and they lost a couple games down the stretch. So they finished 7-9. New Orleans, my team now is playing. I believe it was they still played on Monday night. It could have been Sunday night. I know it was a primetime game, but we had to win to get in. If we lost, the Cowboys go to the playoffs. And it's funny, you know, that game came down to the wire, and it was a third down play. And ironically, it was a play that I had put in from the Cowboys into our offense. And I requested that play on the third down. I hit Eric Martin, a big receiver from LSU. He runs down the sideline, gets us in field goal range. Morton Anderson kicks a 30-yard field goal to win. We go to the playoffs. Cowboys go home.
This is dude, these are the best stories. I so appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Couple more for you before I let you get back to life. Was there what was the vibe between you and Troy? I got to ask you that before we move on, because people don't know. We hear about it. Nobody knows what that kind of competition is or what it's like to be a quarterback in the NFL trying to beat out somebody who was a number one pick. What were the vibes like personally?
I mean, it was cold in the fact that, here's Troy, number one overall pick, had a great college resume, even after Miami broke his leg when he was at Oklahoma to go to UCLA. And, then all of a sudden the guy brings in his college quarterback. Well, what? So, he was not happy. I get it. I totally get it. But then, it became, I don't necessarily know if he was threatened by me. I certainly was there just to gain experience and get reps. But really, it was Babe Loffenberg that held that room together. And Babe got such a great sense of humor, and he made Troy laugh. And obviously that helps lighten the mood. And ultimately, as the season wore on, and at the end of the season, Troy and I feel like we were in a good place. And then once I moved on, and I'd see him at an event, we were totally cool together. And he obviously went on and had his Hall of Fame career. But yeah, early on, I can totally understand why he was standoffish. And I think a little bit that was his nature, his personality, is the way I read it. So we moved on, and I don't feel like there was any backstabbing going on like some quarterback competitions can be. I mean, we were just all trying to figure out the NFL. And I remember he started the first game, and we played the New Orleans Saints, and they had a great defense. And he came to the sideline. He goes, "Steve, what are they doing?" I'm like, "I have no idea. They were spinning safeties left and right. They had so many exotic looking coverages, and we couldn't figure it out, or we certainly couldn't on the sideline."
So when you move on, you mentioned New Orleans, you evolve as a quarterback. You're Chicago, Tampa Bay.